Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, I got out on Lake Chickamauga today for the first time. I've been back from Alaska. I got back a few days ago, and I was cruising down the lake. I was planning on just fishing some, schools that I found before I left, out on the ledges. But as I was cruising down the lake, I had just happened to look down, and there was this flotilla of these dark gray things. Okay, and I knew exactly what they were when I saw them. They were exoskeletons, the sheds from MAYFLY. So we've got a major MAYFLY hatch going on right now, which is one of the what I call the big three, reproductive events in bass fishing. You got bluegill spawn, you got the shad spawn, and then you got the MAYFLY hatch. And of course you got the bass spawn too, but that's more of a, it's less of a feeding opportunity for bass and more of just the reproductive process for them. But those three things, man, bluegill spawn, shad spawn, and the MAYFLY hatch, really big deal in bass fishing. And so when I see this, and it only happens for a couple weeks really, but when I see this, man, I look for one type of area first, okay? And so I wanted to kind of share with you guys the type of areas that I like to look for to capitalize on the MAYFLY hatch. And so it's pretty simple. So essentially, when I see MAYFLY hatches going on, I like to focus first off, and you can find a lot of different places to capitalize on the MAYFLY hatch, but I really do like to focus on bluffy banks, so steeper, rocky banks that have overhanging tree limbs. In fact, this bluff bank, I was pulling up to it, and from like 50 feet away, I could see the MAYFLYs wading down the trees. There's so many in the tree limbs. I could see the MAYFLYs, the dark gray MAYFLYs that we have, and I could see them, sagging down these branches. But this is the type of scenario that I really like. I think that they emerge from these rocky areas, and they really like to have these overhanging limbs that allow them to just perch up there, and congregate on these limbs. We got a bunch of wakes and stuff here. That's one of the drawbacks of this area. But yeah, I've always found that bluffy banks with lots of rock and lots of overhanging trees, those type of areas are the deal for the MAYFLY hatch. Now, again, you can find different types of areas and do well with the MAYFLY hatch, but year in, year out, from lake to lake, this is the type of spot that I look for first, and then I can kind of expand upon things from there. So this is a perfect example. I mean, you're probably seeing all the MAYFLYs, flying around, and we've got lots of rock, lots of steep bank, and a ton of places for these MAYFLYs to hang out. And we've got bluegill and all kinds of stuff popping on the surface. So the ecosystem is really alive right now, feeding on these MAYFLY. Look at all of them come down here. That is just wild. There's so many MAYFLY. All right, so once you find the areas where the MAYFLYs are at, really when it comes down to the presentations that you use, it really runs the gamut. I've had success with moving baits, with slow moving baits, top waters, something dragged on the bottom. All different types of baits will work. And the reason for that is that you're really not trying to imitate the MAYFLYs that much like you would during like the shad spawn. The shad spawn is a time period, great example where you want to imitate shad for the most part. But the MAYFLY hatch, really, these small insects, I mean, they're pretty big relative to other insects, but a lot of the attraction to the MAYFLY hatch for bass isn't necessarily the MAYFLYs themselves, but it's all of the bait fish, all the bluegill, the crawfish, all of these species that the bass regularly eat. They're all in one spot and easy to access and have an easy meal. So although bass will definitely eat the MAYFLYs, whether they're flying around and land on the water or the emerging larvae, they'll definitely eat them, but I really generally don't try to imitate them. So I've had a lot of success with topwater baits. If I'm pitching something or skipping something underneath overhanging limbs, a frog works really good. A walking bait like a Zara Spook works really well to call fish up from the bottom, and also bottom bouncing techniques. If I'm fishing a bluff wall like this, one of my favorite presentations for the mayfly hatch in this scenario is a football jig. This is the Z-Man cross-eyes football jig, and I've got it paired with the Helicross as a trailer. And this is one of my favorite ways to catch fish during the mayfly hatch. In fact, one of my best tour level events on the Tennessee River was here on Chick during the mayfly hatch, and I fished pretty much this exact setup you know, in that event. It was an FLW tour event, and ended up getting a top 10 just dragging a jig on the mayfly hatch. That was one of the things that I did. So this can be a really good scenario. So if you're questioning what to throw and you're on a bluff wall like I like to fish during the mayfly hatch, football jig is a great technique to start with. But anyways, it really just depends on what type of forage species you're seeing feeding on the mayflies, and also light conditions, all that different stuff. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's informative, and hopefully you can find a mayfly hatch on your lake. It is a wonderful time to fish. It really is exciting because everything is super active and feeding up during this this narrow little special window we get during the mayfly hatch. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Check out the links in the description below for my favorite mayfly hatch baits. And that's also a great way to support the channel, is just use those links whenever you're purchasing products that I talk about in these videos. So thank you guys very much. I'm going to see you out in the water. Make sure you trust the process.